General V.N. Sharma, General N.C. Vij, former chiefs, General Syed Atta Hasnain, Barkha Dutt, soldiers, past and present, friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, Jai Hind. My brief remarks are something like this. You know, this book, Alone in the Ring, was due for a July-August 2024 release. MOD clearances, thankfully, came in the way. In a hindsight, not a bad thing to happen, because the issues, subjects that the book traverses are resonant with the crisis of our times, Pakistan and the terror calculus. So I think that delay is very good, because it makes this a very topical release, not only in terms of renewed interest, but also to draw some relevant comparisons. Now, the book is, may I say, painstakingly a well-researched effort, extremely lucid, very readable, thoughtful, carries a wide sweep of our national security challenges. It must be read. It's a very substantive book. But in the brief time that I have, I shall, as I have been asked, focus on three issues. That's what I've been told. One is Parakram. Second is the manifestation of what came to be called the cold start. And the third is jointness, integration, and theaterization. So I've read this book some time back when it was initially given to me by General Vij. But as I was reading the chapters yesterday, I could not help marvel at, in the context of the ongoing Operation Sindoor, the remarkable evolution in our politico-military synergy, our strategic outlook, and the sophistry of our statecraft. And I think it is the pain, the sweat, the trials and tribulations of Parakram and the events thereafter that set the stage for Operation Sindoor. So I'll basically, speak about then and now, which is Parakram and Sindoor, in terms of these three metrics. And may I also say that the single largest utility of General Vij's book is that it helps to place Operation Sindoor in context. It also addresses very serious questions of war and peace. Therefore, it's a must-read, in my view, for middle peace officers, the 2, 3, and 4-star serious military analysts, and most particularly, the political leadership and the bureaucracy in the context of the utility of force. Unless you read the book, understand the context, you will not get a sense of this monumental transformation that I'm talking about from Parakram to Sindoor. So let me just explain in terms of these 3-4 metrics which I have been asked to. I picked out from the book. The first is strategic, restraint, offensive poise. Now I'm quoting Minister Jaswant Singh. General Vij also referred to him, but I'll just quote what he said about Parakram. This to me was startling. He said the objectives of India's mobilization were to defeat terrorism without conflict. So he said there was meant to be no conflict. He says the objective of Parakram was to contain the national mood of teaching Pakistan a lesson without conflict. These were the stated objectives. I'm quoting Mr. Jaswant Singh, sir, from your book directly. And the third one that he pointed out, what General Vij pointed out, Mr. Jaswant Singh says, my most taxing challenge during the confrontation was to get military chiefs to recognize restraint as a strategic asset for avoiding conflict. I mean, I'm amazed. This is what chiefs are supposed to do. We are supposed to fight. And this is Mr. Jaswant Singh, one of our most respected ministers, General Padmanabhan. He says it remains unclear, however, just why the politicians who ordered the build-up finally chose not to use the military machine they had assembled. This is the General Padmanabhan from your book. And then it appears to me strategic restraint became a matter of such highbrow intellect, it became so deeply ingrained into the tone and tenor of our strategic outlook that we failed to discover the utility of force. And it became paralysis. And it translated in a larger sense, and I am now quoting how it went into the national mood. I recall Mr. Arun Shore, I think, who reflected the frustration of those times when he said, not an eye for an eye, not a tooth for a tooth, for one eye, both the eyes, for a tooth, the whole jaw. There was another politician, I'll not name him, he mocked at the Indian Air Force. He said, your Air Force takes off from Gwalior or zoom karke Ambala mein land kar jate. He was mocking the utility of the instrument of force. And then there was Mr. KPS Gill, who offered some, I thought, very sane advice when he said that the war on terror will not be won merely, and I underline this, merely by chasing the terrorists, but by overwhelming the adversary. Now, I think Operation Sindoor has converted the frustration, the thought, even the wisdom of those times into a strategic reality. And that, I think, is the biggest success of Operation Sindoor. Many years later, this is once again General Vij records in the book, Prime Minister Vajpayee himself said that my biggest regret was not going to war with Pakistan after 13 December, admitting categorically that it was a mistake. Now, if this is the wisdom of, these are the lessons, the trials and tribulations of Parakram, Operation Sindoor, as I saw it unfolding, and I have no insider information, as I saw it unfolding, we saw some remarkable political, military clarity convergence. At least we saw over those 3-4 days, there was no dithering, strategic restraint had gone, and therefore it manifested into great offensive poise. So I think for years, Pakistan punched many notches above its strategic weight, and we simply punched several notches below our strategic weight. We've just discovered this. All to brilliant effect. We saw astute leveraging of the escalatory ladder. For the first time I have seen the heart of Punjab being hit. I have commanded the Bhatinda Corps. This Bahawalpur was right opposite us. There were so many opportunities, but we didn't do it. This time we hit Rawalpindi, we hit Raibind, Punjab, where it actually mattered. We also saw some masterly use of offensive air power. And I must concede, I think this war was air and air defense, primarily. So it was the high point and the key battle-winning factor. And may I just point out how all these things are important, because in Kargil, it was somebody I respected greatly, Air Commodore Jasjeet Singh, who argued that not only air power would be escalatory, but it would escalate to the nuclear dimension. Suddenly we discover that air power is a battle-winning factor. Why I'm bringing this out is because all these issues have to be grappled with. It is not only the political class, but I think also we made some great errors of judgment. We finally discovered what air power can do. General Vij has spoken about alone in the ring. Mike Tyson once said that everybody has a strategy till he's punched in the face. If you recall Air Marshal Aurangzeb, on the first night, he was a hero, all flourishes. But when the Air Force struck, he was not seen for the next 3 nights. Mike Tyson becoming a reality. So this is the whole thing, and I was surprised. I know we all know now what happened because of the political-military decision taken not to do SEAD first. We struck the terror targets, and so we got hit on the first night. But once that caveat was removed, our air power has performed with brilliance. Pakistan's air defense system has been dismantled. Pakistan lies exposed, vulnerable, and naked, and was forced to sue for peace. So if you now see from Parakram to Sindoor, in my humble view, there has been a transformatory effect. Transformatory effect. And finally, I think India has rediscovered the utility of force. I think that is the central lesson to draw from your time, sir, when you wrote this book, and what we did today. May I also point this out, and this is once again from the book, how it translates today. Why this calling of this schoolboy nuclear bluff is so important. So as General Vij records, this whole crisis of Parakram came to another boil quickly. We all know, 14th May 2002, 3 terrorists dressed in Indian Army uniforms killed 34 sleeping soldiers, the Kaluchak massacre. And see, Mr. Vajpayee soon after says, "Aar paar ki ladai," decisive battle. And just when it seemed that we were going to go in, General Hamid Gul, by premeditated design, waves the nuclear rattle. The famous refrain that, "What are nukes for?" We see it being done so many times. And thereafter, 6 June, Gauri is tested, nuclear capable. 22nd July, Abdali is tested, nuclear capable. And shockwaves go through Washington. By 31st May 2002, US-American personnel began to be evacuated from embassies. Travel advisories are issued. And as American businessmen began to leave India, this order is interpreted in naive New Delhi as an American threat to punish India economically. So look at how it plays out. And no wonder Pakistan has played it again and again. And Richard Armitage from the US administration rushes to Pakistan. A wily Musharraf gives him token pledges, and they are conveyed in Delhi as assurances. So I'm talking of this, how time and again the victim of terror got punished and the perpetrator was allowed to get away unpunished. And this, the Pakistani establishment perfected it over a period of time into a consummate art. So, and it saw the development of, in my view, a particularly obnoxious piece of nuclear theology, which was bereft of any strategic rationale, and the West played into it, and we saw a new doctrine, that under nuclear cover, you could go on a terror rampage, and at wonderfully low cost. Operation Sindoor has called this schoolboy nuclear bluff. Now, Pakistan has to make two choices. You can either sponsor terror or face India's conventional might. So terror is no longer a low-cost option. I'm not claiming that it will establish deterrence, but it will become a high-cost option for Pakistan. And we have really challenged this notion of terror as a legitimate tool in Pakistan's statecraft, and the direct correlation from the book to now is what General Bridge records in terms of what happened after Kaluchak. I therefore think, all the lessons of Parakram are extremely important even today. Since time is short, just two more points very quickly. General Bridge talks of this doctrinal package or baggage of the strike course. We tried, because of the long mobilization times, the lumbering, non-utilitarian mobilization. And just now, please think of, whatever were the problems of those times, we have seen a transition from that to this new Indian military, which has become an instrument of long-range precision strike. The army firing the loiters and all that stuff of the Air Force. And because of this transition, this very, I think, meaningful transition to non-contact kinetics, we have adapted to the changing character of war, and therefore we have delivered greatly. So the lesson is that we have to constantly evolve. If I may make just one more point, I have been making it for a while, it's a consideration for all of us, that in a terror situation, the Army's predication on this mechanized, armored-based response as a first choice may no longer be the wisest option. We have to make that change, because if we do not make that change, we may be found wanting in the future. So, from Parakram to now, the Indian military's transition is noteworthy in terms of non-contact kinetics, precision-driven, ISR space-enabled operations, and of course, I've already pointed out to the remarkable work done by air power. It is not escalatory, it is battle-winning. And what surprised me the greatest was the strength of our AD wall. I mean, the S-400s, the Akash seeds, they all came together brilliantly. But may I say this, so all this undergirded the success of Operation Sindoor. In terms of future pathways, may I just say this, and this is my view, I'll just take 30 seconds more, that while we have done extremely well against Pakistan, I am very sure Pakistan will regroup and get back to us in another 8 to 9 months. And see, small things can make a transition. If the Chinese give them the J-20s, which it is very likely, the same Pakistani Air Force which floundered so badly might become a success. So we really have to, look at what the future pathways are. The AD wall, which was so strong against the Pakistanis, against a very strong precision strike force of the Chinese, may just prove to be very brittle. So we have to continuously address these issues. And so the points that have been raised in General Vijay's book are extremely relevant. And I've tried to make a direct comparison as to how they continue to hold good today. So, and the last point I would say, this is just 30 seconds more, that this, I'm very surprised that the people who are now asking for enhanced defense expenditure is not the military, but civilian voices. Samir Saran from the ORF is now talking of 4 to 5% of GDP. So the challenges that we have to face in the future, I think, are extremely relevant. And some of these points that were raised in General Vijay's book and have been carried forward to the present, but in the future we'll have to do much more. Thank you.